All right, welcome back. Foreign policy. So we're going to see some major conflict between the president and Congress taking place as they fight over foreign policy. However, it is first of all important to know that the president has many significant advantages when it comes to making foreign policy compared with Congress. As a result, the president definitely is the leader and takes the lead in foreign policy. First of all, he is commander-in-chief, so he dictates troop movements. He sends troops in and out of countries. He tells them where to go. Ultimately, he is above the generals and all of that, so tremendous advantage that he controls the army. He nominates ambassadors and diplomats, negotiates treaties and executive agreements with foreign leaders. Congress doesn't do that. They do get to ratify treaties. They do get to confirm appointees, but still, president gets to start that process. The president can make executive orders that affect the military, telling them exactly what to do and how to conduct certain things. And defense, diplomatic, so that means Department of Defense, State Department, and intelligence services, they report directly to the president daily. Yes, they do come and testify in front of Congress as part of congressional oversight a few times a year, but they make reports to the president every single day. So all of these give him a tremendous advantage making foreign policy. So you have the main source of constitutional tension. So again, remember that tug of war that's going on. The president is commander-in-chief. However, only Congress has the power to formally declare war. So framers intentionally split these jobs up. They didn't want the president to be able to make war whenever he wanted. They wanted Congress to have to approve that, and then he would go be in charge of actually conducting and fighting that war. Now, we realize that this hasn't mattered as much as they would have hoped because the U.S. hasn't declared war in quite a while and yet has found itself in a lot of fights and wars and things around the world unofficially. But this is your constitutional tension. All right, so this is towards the end of the Vietnam War. Congress realized, well, with the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, we gave the president way too much power to fight that war when we didn't want to do that. So they passed the War Powers Resolution. Their purpose was to try to limit the president's ability to actually wage war. So it has some specific elements to it. It says that, all right, if the president takes military action, he has 48 hours from the start of that action to tell Congress, to report to them and say, hey, by the way, tanks just rolled across the Canadian border. We are invading Canada. So he has 48 hours to do that. Then Congress has 60 days to authorize, or this implies to not authorize, the action. And if Congress refuses to authorize within those 60 days, the president then has 30 additional days to withdraw troops. So what has been the effect? Well, it's basically done nothing. It's had very little influence. And then you have the parentheses. I'll get to that in a moment. First of all, you can notice the president has essentially up to 92 days under the War Powers Resolution where he can fight the war that he wants anyway. 48 hours to tell them, 60 days for Congress to decide what to do, and then 30 more days if Congress says no. 92 days is a lot of time for the U.S. military to handle a lot of things. So that in and of itself weakens it. But then you get to the parenthetical comment, and is probably unconstitutional anyway. So this is really Congress trying to do the president's job, isn't it? It's them saying what he can do with troop movements, where he can send them, where he can't send them. If this ever got challenged in the Supreme Court, it would probably be ruled unconstitutional. So please note that it hasn't been because it has never been challenged. But if it ever were to be challenged, it probably would be unconstitutional as a violation of separation of powers. So what can Congress do to influence foreign policy? Since the War Powers Resolution hasn't really worked out, since declaring war hasn't apparently mattered as much as we would have thought, well, again, their main power is to declare war. But then that number 2 one, that's going to be the most realistic power that actually they're able to use. It's the power of the purse. The president cannot fight a war if he doesn't have money to fight that war. It's a very, very expensive fighting war. So since they have power of the purse and budget power, they can make it very difficult, if not impossible, if they really want to. The Senate also ratifies treaties and confirms cabinet secretaries. We're thinking of cabinet secretaries that would be involved in these kind of foreign policy decisions, like the Secretary of State and Defense. And finally, this was mentioned earlier in the video, but they can perform congressional oversight, which means that they can require the heads of the Defense and State Departments and intelligence agencies to testify at committee hearings to try to find out what's going on and is the threat as real as the president's saying it is, etc. So they can do all these things to influence foreign policy, but still, the president by far has the advantage. All right, don't forget, subscribe, hit that like button. This has been a La Money production.
It was a cold night and the snow